The worst pain a man can feel is the sinking belief that he's lost her. It doesn't happen all at once, but in slow fragments that cut deeper with each passing day. At first, the texts come slower. Where she once replied instantly, now hours slip by with nothing. The calls that used to light up your phone are suddenly fewer, shorter, less warm. That affection she poured into you with ease begins to feel measured, rationed, like it's slipping through your fingers no matter how tightly you try to hold on. You lie awake at night replaying every moment in your mind, every conversation, every laugh, every small mistake, searching for the exact second it all began to unravel. You convince yourself that it's over, that everything you built is crumbling in your hands. That's the moment most men break. In that desperation, they chase. They send long messages trying to fix things. They beg for explanations, plead for her to stay, or cry for reassurance. They collapse into a kind of weakness they never thought they were capable of. And deep down, what they're really trying to do is buy back the certainty they lost. But here's the truth that cuts against the grain of that fear: you haven't lost her. Not yet. Women don't walk away the first time they pull back. What feels like an ending is often something else entirely. It's a test. It's her retreating, pulling into herself, not to vanish forever, but to see what you will do without her warmth. It's instinct, not finality. And if you mistake that pullback for the end, if you let your fear take the wheel, that's when you truly lose her, not when she steps back, but when you collapse in response. When a woman pulls away, most men treat it like a death sentence. They assume the connection is broken, the bond has been severed, and there's nothing left to salvage. But that isn't how it usually works. Women rarely leave without warning. Instead, they withdraw in small, deliberate steps. To you, it feels like rejection, but to her it's instinct. She's not always walking out the door, she's studying you. She wants to see how you'll handle her distance, how you'll react when the warmth you relied on suddenly vanishes. Will you crumble? Will you panic? Will you reveal that your strength was only borrowed from her affection? Or will you show her that your calmness, your presence, your focus are real no matter what mood she's in? This is what most men fail to understand. A woman's pullback is not always punishment. It's observation. She's measuring you in silence, and the results determine whether her respect for you deepens or dies. If you chase, her doubts grow. If you beg, her attraction shrinks. The moment you make her feel like her attention is your lifeline, she instinctively loses trust in you. But if you remain steady, if you keep moving forward without clinging, she sees something rare. She sees a man who doesn't let her emotions dictate his value. That steadiness tells her something no words could: you are not dependent on her for your sense of worth. Her retreat is her way of asking a question without speaking it. And your response is the answer she'll never forget. If you collapse, she knows she was right to pull back. If you stand firm, she feels a respect that pulls her closer than any chase ever could. The silence is what shatters most men. That hollow space where her voice used to be, where her presence used to fill your days, suddenly becomes unbearable. You sit there staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never comes, pacing through conversations in your head, desperate for some sign that she still cares. But here's the reality: that silence is not emptiness. It's the battlefield. It's the place where attraction is built or destroyed, where respect is either born or buried. And it is here, in the quiet, where your strength is weighed. Most men fail this test because silence terrifies them. They rush to fill it with desperate words, with late-night texts, with apologies for things they didn't even do wrong. They try to smother the distance with noise, believing that more effort will fix what less effort broke. But that noise is exactly what kills attraction. Because in her eyes, every frantic attempt shows her that you are no longer leading, you are following her emotions, her retreat, her uncertainty. A man who can't handle silence, in her instinctive world, is a man who can't be trusted to handle life's storms. What you don't realize is that her silence is not an accident. It is the crucible. It is where she measures you without saying a word. She wants to know if you will betray yourself under pressure, if you will break the calm you promised with your actions. If you collapse, you prove you were only strong when she made it easy. But if you hold steady, if you remain unshaken while the distance burns, you show her something unforgettable, that your strength is real, and it does not depend on her mood. The paradox of distance is this: the very moment you feel like you've lost her is often the exact moment she starts to feel you more deeply. When you don't chase, when you don't flood her with calls and messages, you give her something rare: space. And in that space, her mind has no choice but to wander back to you. She starts to replay the moments when she felt your presence, the steadiness you carried, the safety she experienced around you. Absence sharpens those memories, makes them louder, more vivid. Women can't miss a man who never leaves them alone, but they do miss the man who allows them to feel his absence. This is why silence is not weakness, it's power. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you increase the weight of your presence in her mind. You let her wonder where you are, what you're doing, whether you've already moved on. That wondering is not just curiosity, it's longing. And longing is the spark that reignites attraction. No amount of begging or persuasion can create that effect. It's only born when she sits with the silence and feels the gap you've left behind. Most men ruin this by rushing to fill the void, thinking action is the solution. They smother her doubts instead of letting them work in their favor. But the man who stays calm, who carries on with his life, who doesn't try to buy back affection, becomes magnetic in her eyes. She senses a strength she can't explain, a self-sufficiency that feels rare. And that feeling pulls her back, not out of guilt or pity, but out of a respect that only grows when absence teaches her what presence truly meant. When she pulls away, you're standing at a crossroads, and the choice you make defines everything. One path is the path of weakness. It's the road most men take, because it's driven by fear. They beg, they plead, they try to negotiate their way back into her arms. They apologize for things they didn't do, make promises they can't keep, and shrink themselves into something smaller, thinking that being less will somehow make her want more. But every step down that path kills her respect. She doesn't see love in your desperation, she sees dependency. And nothing dries up attraction faster than a man who has abandoned himself just to hold on to her. The other path is strength. It's harder, lonelier, and requires discipline most men don't have. It's the path where you don't chase, don't explain, don't try to buy back her affection. Instead, you sit in the silence, even when it burns. You let her absence become your training ground. You redirect your energy into your mission, into your body, into your vision for your own life. You remind yourself that a woman can complement you, but she cannot complete you. That's your job. Her silence, instead of being a curse, becomes your mirror. It forces you to see who you are without her validation. Most men run from that reflection, but wise men use it to grow. And here's the irony: when you choose yourself, when you rise higher in her absence, she feels it. Even from a distance, she senses your strength multiplying. And that either pulls her back with renewed respect, or it doesn't, and you've still won. Because the man who walks the road of strength never truly loses. He only becomes more of who he was meant to be. Most men never realize that when a woman steps back, she's not always leaving because her feelings died. More often, she's stepping back to see if you'll love yourself without her. That's the hidden layer behind her silence. It's not always about punishment or rejection. It's instinct. Something inside her wants to know if the man she chose is steady enough to stand on his own, or if his worth collapses the second her attention fades. And that is why her distance is not the end, it's the test. This is where so many men fail. They confuse her silence with finality and rush to prove themselves through words, gifts, or endless reassurance. But what they don't see is that the answer she's looking for can't be spoken. It can only be lived. If you collapse when she withdraws, she knows your strength was an act. If you stay calm, if you keep moving with purpose, she feels something deeper than affection, she feels respect. And respect is the foundation of desire. Her silence is a mirror, reflecting back who you truly are. If you're weak, it exposes it. If you're strong, it confirms it. That's why the man who doesn't panic in the face of distance never really loses. If she comes back, it's with more respect than before. If she doesn't, he still walks away with his dignity, his mission, his growth intact. Either way, he wins. Because his value was never tied to her presence in the first place. The man who refuses to let silence break him becomes rare. And rarity is irresistible. So when you think you've lost her, think again. That's not your ending. It's the proving ground that makes you unshakable.